Welcome back to the Taiwan Outlook. I am Wu Ruiguo. In this segment, we will continue our conversation with Professor明居正of the Political Science Department of the National Taiwan University. Professor Ming, you had identified, in addition to the desertion that we mentioned among the Communist Party members, you also identified 4 other factors as the social challenge intensifies within China. On top of the 4 is the the worsening income distribution among the rich and the poor in China, between the haves or the have-nots. Can you give us a little more elaboration on that point?
Yes, I remember back in 1978 when Deng Xiaoping proclaimed his reform idea. He talked about let's make part of the people be richer.
Yes,
first, and then others to follow. And I think that's a good idea because it's impractical for the entire Chinese population to become richer, become well-to-do, or better-to-do instantly or simultaneously. So it's a good idea. So I gather what he had in mind was to let the coastal people, or the people in the coastal China, coastal area, to get better first. And it seems to me that has achieved his goal. But the problem is the income distribution, whether it's basically relatively equal or relatively unequal, because we see that there's a so-called aspiration gap. Aspiration gap is a very famous social theory in terms of explaining social unrest and things like that. It deals specifically with developing countries. At the very beginning of a developing country, when you begin to build up your economy, things are looking good. So people are having a higher and higher aspiration of what they could do and how good the things could become for them.
We can become a part of the pie,
bigger
pie.
Bigger pie. And they're just riding the tide, right? So some people are holding very high aspiration about it. And along the road, some of the people in the society would actually become better off. That's for sure, because he's benefited from the process. But there are less fortunate people in the society who may not be benefit that much. So he's improving himself. So he's doing a better life and getting a higher pay and get a better job. But still, he's not happy. No. Because other people are getting more. And he's not getting as much as they do. So this sense of inequality begin to grow in the society, and especially in the less fortunate section of the society. And unfortunately, again, these people tend to be more. They are more than the more fortunate people. So the haves and have-nots are usually unequal. Not even unequal in the sense of their actual income, but also in size. So there are fewer people who got benefited during the process, and there are more people who are less fortunate during the process. So this sense of uneven distribution or inequality begin to grow bigger and bigger in the society. That's what we call the aspiration gap.
But Professor Ming, I'm going to challenge you on that point in the sense that the worsening of income distribution is not only unique to China. It's also happening in the United States, parts of Europe, and also here in Taiwan. According to a recent report by China-3 in Taiwan, that the rich and the poor in Taiwan, the income disparity is 62 times in terms of their annual income. You're talking about the top 5% and the bottom 5%.
Exactly. But usually we calculate, when we do the calculation, we do the top 20% and the bottom 20%. Still, that's increasing. You're right.
But I mean, no matter how you package it, the situation is not unique in China. Why is it that you identify this factor as one of the more pressing issues that Beijing needs to deal with, since it's happening in other parts of the world as well?
In other parts of the world, in other societies, the poorer people, the less fortunate people, they stand a chance of hope.
upward mobility.
Right. There's a social mobility. For instance, you can receive a better education, and you can work harder, or you got better opportunity in the society, and the policy would favor most people. The policy basically does not necessarily favor the top 5%, the top 10%. But in China, we're looking at an unequal distribution caused by institutional problem.
Also persisted by the institutional, favor, whatever. Yes.
So whether it's a party cadre and you're just a civilian, you're an average people, then that makes a big difference.
Of course.
And inside the party, and you have reached a certain level, then you enjoy other benefits. You enjoy other privileges. But whereas for the common average,
average citizen, it's not the same.
The cadre, the cadres. The cadres of the party members, there are still differences. So what I'm saying is there are institutional inequality built in the society. So that's what disappoints people. People say, look, we're different from them, or they're different from us. But in other countries or in other societies, for instance in Taiwan, if you're in the bottom half, you say, oh, don't worry, not to worry. As long as my kids who passed the entrance examination, who got into college, and after he graduated from the college,
prospects are bright.
Then we got a better future. But in China, it's not that easy. So I think that's what makes it so different from the rest of the world.
You mentioned about the cadres. We know cadres is a very stable part of the social structure, political structure in China today. And we also talk about the level of corruption among the cadres. You have identified that as also another factor pushing for changes in China. How do you explain the worsening level of corruption in China, especially at various levels of government? Because most recently we have read reports about the former mayor of Shenzhen being prosecuted for very terrible corrupt acts.
It's a very prominent case.
Yes, and then we also have a few years back the former party secretary from Shanghai, who is now sentenced to long term in prison. So all these worsening corruption cases, very well publicized. How is that going to impact the stature of the CCP in China, and also its legitimacy claim?
I'm not saying that democracy would cure everything.
Every ill.
No, that's not what I'm saying. But a system without democracy is more likely to corrupt.
Yes.
We always say that power brings corruption. Absolute power brings absolute corruption. That's exactly what happened on mainland China. I think they notice it themselves too. According to the official statistics, prior to the year 2000, there are corruptions, but not as many cases as we see today. After that, they said the cases which had been caught had been increasing to about 40,000 cases per year. 40,000 cases.
That's really something.
That's really something big. And in terms of the amount involved in the corruption case, we're looking at, for instance, a case over 1 million renminbi. That's big, right?
Yes.
Very big.
Yes.
Prior to 1993,
yes.
Cases like that would be about less than 100 cases per year. After the year 2000, the number skyrocketed to about 1,300 cases per year. Or sometimes as high as 1,500. Yes, quite a leap. It's a jump. It's a major jump. And as for the officials who are involved in the cases, are officials who deal with finances and big businesses, construction, foreign trade, and public security. So these are the people who have the strategic position to be able to corrupt. So that's what some of the Western Western scholars would call it rent-seeking. But the question is, in a democratic society or in a legal society, we would say, well, there are laws who would put a top on it and who will supervise things like that. But in a system like a one-party totalitarianism, we're talking about the party will have to supervise itself.
Of course.
It will function to a certain extent, but still, there are limits. I mean, there are things that you wouldn't want to do and things that you wouldn't want to press any further.
For the remainder of this segment, we're going to want to ask you a related issue, following the worsening income distribution and also the corruption, the level of corruption in China. It's the level of social unrest.
Yes.
I remember a figure, it might be a few years back, I think it's 2006. It averaged out over the course of 365 days, averaged out over 2,000 cases of big and small social unrest in China. In that year, I don't know what the latest figure is in 2008, the most recent, but I would suppose the cases of social unrest is really something very serious. And do you think the situation is actually getting worse before it gets better?
Yes, it's getting worse. Let me offer a different figure.
Okay.
Again, the official figure.
Okay.
Let me see if my memory can serve me correctly. In the year 2003,
okay,
the cases in the same category as you just mentioned was like 58,000 cases that year.
Oh, okay.
2004 is 74,000 cases.
Okay.
2005 is 87,000 cases.
Okay.
And according to the news we've been gathering, we have clearly identified about less than 1,000 cases.
A day?
A year.
A year?
A year. That means there are more than about 80-some thousand cases which remain unknown to the outside world.
Yeah, unreported.
All we know are the figures.
Yes.
And these are the official figures released by the by the Securities Department. So we were shocked.
Yes.
When the first time I saw the figure, I said, wow, how come we know only about 1,000 cases or less than that? So, and I began to probe into that the situation.
Before you going further, we're going to take a short break on the Taiwan Outlook. I will be right back and continue this conversation with Professor明居正. We'll be back.